Oh, okay, go ahead, drop it. Power panel, you get it. Many things must be noted. John Iadarola, jacketless. You guys asked for it.
I thought Mark was gonna be jacketless today.
Sure, yeah.
When have I ever been
You want to borrow my jacket? I think we're the same
I'll take it,
size.
No, he's been working out. He's been dying to go jacketless.
I have not.
Every post game, it's like, it's a
Friday.
little hot in here. It's a little hot. What am I going to do?
First of all, it's hot right now in here.
Oh,
Partially because
yeah,
of blushing,
yeah,
but it's
yeah.
also Friday, and I'm really out of it. I was sleeping on the floor of an office like an hour ago. I'm just out of it. Just let me be.
Sure.
Let me be.
Is all I have to say to that. But we'll get back to that in a second. Jules,
So there you go. That's easier than getting it, you know. That's fine.
Mark Thompson, my name is Cenk Uygur. Some of you know that. Okay, so a number of things. First of all, let's note for the record, shoptyt.com. Okay, vote.
Also shoptyt.com.
And Martin Luther King over there. So I love that shirt. I love this one. Imran Sheikh, one of our viewers, did this one. Thank you, Imran. Super appreciated. Shoptyt.com to get fun shirts. Second of all, we've been adding more and more stuff to membership because of the membership drive. So one of the things we brought back to great acclaim is behind the scenes. So members get behind the scenes footage. Mark, we're gonna have to shoot one of your poker games.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Poker games, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, if you want to see Mark depressed and dejected. Yeah. In a way, I've never been depressed and dejected on this show. Anyway, yes, my life is open to you for membership.
Yeah. Okay. You get to see Mark wagering a pinky on a hand of poker.
One day, I mean 2-2-2, but I'm just saying. So dumb.
It's getting worse.
It's like you're
All right, anyways, so I mentioned that because John's done a couple of them, I've done a couple of them today. And I knew that the behind the scenes would eventually become like a reality show and there'd be different characters like who would get mad at each other and drama and all that stuff. And it began today, but in an unexpected way. The two characters against each other are me against my cat. Okay, so the controversies involved are, do I have cat scratch fever? And is my cat trying to kill me?
Oh, wow.
Okay, so that's gonna be up for the members of Behind the Scenes. tyt.com/join to become a member, get all the fun. Okay, and then today we got a lot of different power panels, lots of different combos, people going in and out. We're gonna mix it up. We got big stories for you guys. Obviously, the Kavanaugh accusations are amazing, fascinating, controversial. A lot of different people from across the political spectrum have different points of view on it. We'll talk about that a little bit later. We've got massive breaking news on Manafort, and now we have a lot more information than we did yesterday. And even Dershowitz, who is Trump's informal lawyer on TV, is going, uh-oh. He did not add tick, 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 tick. And that might be coming soon as well. So we got a lot of show ahead for you guys. So John, I always want to say shirtless, but no, thank God not for that. Nah, he's not. He hasn't gone full Alex Jones. So
Red hot blood in my veins.
So jacketless John, go.
Okay. I have a piece of paper in my hand with some good news that I was gonna start the show off with, but now you guys have been sort of annoying me. Maybe you don't need the good news.
Oh, so well, okay.
Maybe you don't need this poll from Florida.
Wait,
Poll from Florida? Yeah, maybe.
No, John, you don't need a jacket. I mean, look, man.
Never looked better.
You look fantastic. Give me the poll. Give me the poll.
I was gonna. Okay. So Florida poll: Gillum versus DeSantis is Rasmussen, which, as we know, tends to lean more towards the Republicans.
That's right. That's right.
So I'm just curious because we've been doing a lot of predictions lately. Well, what do you think it is?
So if you're saying that it's a good poll that we would like, and it's from Rasmussen, which doesn't lean Republican, it's massively Republican. It has and what I mean by that is not just the people who run it or commissioned it are Republican. It has historically overpolled in the direction of Republicans when compared to the actual results in the elections. So giving you that big long setup, if Rasmussen's got Gillum up by 5, he might be up by 9. So I'm going to say 5. Gillum up by 5, the Democrat.
Gillum 48%. DeSantis, 42%.
Okay.
So that's likely Florida voters. Also note that voters who say they are certain to vote, Gillum leads by 5.
No, Republican Party, that Southern strategy, tick, 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 tick. So DeSantis came out in the first half after he won and Gillum won and said, we don't want to monkey this up. It was not a dog whistle, it was a human whistle, we all heard it. And it was the most brazen, obvious way of injecting monkey into a sentence I have ever seen. Yeah. So, and his thesis was, you would imagine, hey, I'm going to get my racist voters to vote against Andrew Gillum, and there's more racists in Florida than minorities, and that's my strategy. To which we now say, based on their polling, we mean the Republican polling through Rasmussen, oops. I told you on day one, I thought that was a wrong political calculation. The reality is no, the demographics have changed even in the South, even in places like North Carolina and Georgia and Florida. Even though Trump won those places, the reality is voter turnout was the key difference. So conservatives got riled up and showed up to vote. Democratic vote was depressed. Partly because, or mostly because the candidate was Hillary Clinton. So what you don't want to do if you're a Republican is rile up Democratic voters to show up. And that's exactly what DeSantis did. And I think he's going to pay the price for it. And it looks like he already is.
Yeah. Okay, you want to go to, I don't know if you want to get the soundboard ready. Do we have a soundboard? We don't have a soundboard, do we?
No, not on power panels. Okay.
That makes sense. Okay. Former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort became the latest in an ever-growing string of Trump employees and aides and friends and people in his orbit to plead guilty to federal charges today. And also the latest to enter into a cooperation agreement with the special counsel. He pled guilty to 1 count of conspiracy against the US and 1 count of conspiracy to obstruct justice due to attempts to tamper with witnesses. It's weird that he pled guilty to that second one because I keep hearing that conspiracy to obstruct justice isn't a real thing. We shouldn't actually worry about it. So that's a couple of extra charges. Of course, in the first trial that he'd already gone through less than a month ago, I believe there were 9 charges that he was found guilty of then. So we've passed 10 now, and this is by his own admission. As a result of that, he will not face 5 additional charges that he would have faced if his second trial, which had been planned to begin in the next couple of weeks, would have gone through. Thanks to this deal, that will not happen. But in addition, prosecutor Andrew Weissman told the judge that Manafort's plea agreement with Mueller's team is a cooperation agreement and other charges will be dropped. The scope of the cooperation was not immediately clear. We've learned a little bit since then, but not a ton really. We do have video of Trump's attorney as of today, which we'll roll now.
Tough day for Mr. Manafort, but he's accepted responsibility, and we wanted to make sure that his family was able to remain safe and live a good life. He's accepted responsibility, and this is for conduct that dates back many years, and everybody should remember that.
So there's 2 interesting things that you might have noted in there. The last part is, this is conduct that dates back many years. And as we all know, crimes don't matter if they were before. This always should be looking forward, not looking back. But the other thing is, I don't know if you noticed, but he said he wants his family to stay safe.
Yes.
What is that about? He knows what he's doing by dropping something like that.
Well, these guys wrap themselves in family all the time, family in the flag or whatever. And what's odd to me about Manafort is his daughter has come out. Remember, she's come out and called him a monster, and she was really quite vocal about the fact that she thought he was guilty, and she thought the way he did business was sleazy. She's been so outspoken about it. They're just odd. So when he said family, that's right where my mind went.
See, that's super interesting because we all had a slightly different take on that. I thought he was saying, like, now that I'm cooperating with Mueller and partly against the Russians, I'd like to make sure that my family's safe. So
there's that too.
Yeah, that's also a possibility. But let's get to the heart of the issue. Now that Manafort has pled guilty, countdown to Donald Trump saying, flipping should be illegal. It ought to be like we should think about making it illegal. Flipping, there's another word for it. Cooperating with law enforcement. That's literally what Trump said earlier. He thinks that perhaps cooperating with law enforcement should be illegal. Gee, I wonder which side he's on, cops or robbers.
We have a little bit of that comment. We don't have the full thing, but here is a little bit of Donald Trump talking about what he knows about flipping.
One of the reasons I respect Paul Manafort so much is he went through that trial. You know, they make up stories. People make up stories. This whole thing about flipping, they call it. I know all about flipping.
Are you considering pardoning Paul Manafort?
I have great respect for what he's done in terms of what he's gone through.
That's the thing. Now that he's cooperating, the question is, could he potentially pardon him? He could potentially pardon him. I saw something in a Vox article. There was a sentence I actually tweeted out. It was, pardoning is now off the table because the president would never do something that would be seen as so brazenly self-serving. And I thought, if somebody just woke up and found themselves in the Trump presidency.
It's like that meme of a guy waking up from a coma and the nurse says, he's like, did I miss anything? Well, Trump is president. Well, there's no way he'd pardon, himself in a criminal investigation and all of his associates.
Yeah.
And so in the longer version of that clip, he talks about flipping maybe should be illegal. He's known people that have had people flip against them for the last 30, 40 years, which again makes you go, who are the people you know? How many mafia bosses do you know that this was an issue for? But look, we don't have the soundboard today, but yes, one more time, down goes Manafort, down goes Manafort. But the most important part, and the question we asked yesterday is, to what degree is he cooperating with prosecutors? Is this a plea deal, just saying, okay, you guys got me, I'm not gonna go through trial, I'm gonna save $1 million, because he's already spent $1 million in legal defense, and he would probably have to spend another $1 million to go through a second trial. And just, okay, throw the book at me, but not quite as much because I'm pleading to a deal. Or, no, I'm gonna give you everything I got, okay? And it appears for now, and I'll tell you the marker that you'll be able to tell for yourself which way it's going in just a little bit. But it appears for now that he is fully cooperating with prosecutors. So tick, 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 tick. And so now the reason I'm gonna quote Dershowitz here, who I have no respect for at all, is because he has been going around pretending to be Donald Trump's lawyer on TV, even though Trump never hired him. It's like brazenly begging for a job. It's one of the saddest things I've ever seen. But he is in full tilt defense of Donald Trump, and he is today. But even Dershowitz went on TV and said, there is no half cooperation. No, the prosecutors only give you a deal if there is full cooperation. And here's an important part. Once you begin talking, there is no undoing that talk because you've already given the evidence that the prosecutors want. So if the pardon's gonna come, it's gotta come right now because he's in mid-song, right? And so if it doesn't come right now, and then the prosecutors come out and say, we have gotten good cooperation from Manafort, that means that Trump is likely screwed. Now that Trump is okay if he, well, not okay, he's gonna have other issues, but if he goes, pardon right now, pardon, no, he's fine, pardon, what do you mean, right? He's got to do that, or the evidence comes out and the prosecutors have it and they could use it later, even if there is a pardon. And then secondarily, if prosecutors come out and say, this was not full cooperation, and the judge has told them, you have to come back and tell me, did he fully cooperate or did he not fully cooperate? And accordingly, we will sentence him. Okay, so if prosecutors come out and go not full cooperation, that means he did not flip on Trump, and he'll get a little less of a sentence for not going through the trial. If they come out and say full cooperation, that means he flipped.
Yeah, and the weird thing also to hear Trump kind of try to continue to message as he does, where these facts are made up, and you know what they'll do? They'll make stuff up on you. This trial, as it was prosecuted by Manafort, I mean, I don't mean it literally, I'm talking about as he put together his defense, it's not like 1-800 attorney is in there defending this guy. He's got tremendous resources. And so when he sees that there's no light at the end of this tunnel and that he has to make this change, he's not seeing a bunch of stuff that's made up and can be knocked down in a court of law, because as I say, he has, some of the best legal minds that he can put together working on that team. He sees those are real facts that are going to be as damning as can be, and he'll never see the light of day from prison. So that's why he has to take the deal.
Yeah, Gates flipped on him, his longtime associate, and it's not a light thing to plead guilty to these terrible charges, now 10 in total, including conspiracy against the US. And I'm curious to see if Trump's going to double down on flipping should be illegal, because if he says you should not cooperate with law enforcement as they unearth a conspiracy against the United States of America, I mean, that's a hell of a moment. And we've had a lot of those moments, but that might top them all.
That's a great point, though. It's not just money laundering and tax evasion, and I think you're right, because I think I was focused on the money laundering and tax evasion, and in the lights I may have lost that specific charge. You're absolutely right. This is it's very serious. And his toxicity is now, it seems, most definitely going to leak out onto Trump.
Yeah, and it's difficult to know exactly what he would have when it comes to Trump's lawyers cooperating, especially longtime lawyers. It makes a little bit more sense. Like Cohen, has been with him for a long time, involved in a lot of deals. But in terms of Paul Manafort, one area that he probably would know quite a bit about is the meeting in Trump Tower. He probably would know when Trump knew about it. How involved was he in setting it up and communicating afterward, and all of that. So we could potentially find out more about that.
So there's a couple of possibilities. Trump Tower is, of course, at the top of the list because he was in that meeting, and we already know that there was a number of lies that Donald Trump Jr. and Donald Trump told about that is now a public record. They first said it was about adoption, then they said, yeah, sorry, we're just kidding, it wasn't about adoption. It was about the Russian oligarchs trying to get out of sanctions in return for dirt on Hillary Clinton. Then they said they didn't get any dirt. Now, is that true or not true? Then Donald Trump said, I didn't write the statement saying that it was just about adoption. Now they had to admit, yes, Donald Trump did dictate the statement that lied about what the meeting was about, so it reaches the president. And then there was talk of whether Donald Trump was made aware of the meeting, which would then link him to the collusion. And so those are all the things at stake in the Trump Tower. I think there's another larger issue, but go ahead, John.
Well, it's just that one thing that you said is what they have said, that we didn't get any dirt, which could end up being just a clever way to message around that. They didn't need to get the dirt. They didn't release the dirt. But the dirt was released, and it's possible that the communication was about coordinating when that should happen. Because remember, those things started coming out within a couple of hours of not the National Enquirer, the Billy Bush tape and all of that. So certainly somebody was waiting to spring it. They might not have had any conversations, but if they did, it didn't necessarily have to involve them getting the dirt. So he could be technically true, but also lying.
Oh, John, that is such a great point. I don't know why I haven't thought of that all along. Because they don't have to receive the dirt at all. The Russians released it to everyone. So in essence, the Trump team received it as well as the entire public, which was the whole point. What they could have discussed in that meeting is, if we win, we'll look out for you. You guys release what you have on Hillary Clinton now. And they did. They released it after the Trump Tower meeting. So, and then they get to say in a lawyerly way, we did not receive that information in that meeting. So,
and this is all speculation, obviously, but Paul Manafort might know.
Well, that's something I totally don't understand about how the Trump campaign, or Trump and his administration are talking about the meeting and the idea of collusion is, if they came out and said, we colluded with Russia to win the election, Republicans would just say, great, that stopped Hillary Clinton from being president. She's a threat to the United States, and it's a good thing that you did. So I still honestly don't understand why there's this, like tiptoeing around language and this shifting story. I feel like they could honestly just come out and maybe, at best, I'm guessing maybe it's a calculated risk that they're not doing it, but all of this just sort of, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
No, Jules, they need a fig leaf, because I think you're right about the substance of it. The Republicans are like, yeah, we won, and the Russians helped us, who cares, right? That's my sense of the politics of the moment, but they need a fig leaf because it's illegal. So you can't just come out and go, yeah, I worked with a foreign country during our elections, and I took valuable information from them, which breaks all campaign finance laws. What are you going to do? Hashtag suck it? No, you can't. I mean, even Trump can't do that, right? That's why they need to pretend, well, I mean, we didn't technically get the information, so that all the Republicans like Mitch McConnell can go, good enough. They didn't technically get the information.
Although
right?
I think that Trump is well within the realm of tweeting out hashtag suck it.
Yeah, that is entirely possible.
Hashtag haters and losers.
Yeah, but one other thing. Look, Manafort might have information on that, as we just discussed, might be super relevant to that law breaking that the Trump campaign might have participated in. But the other thing he could have information is about Russians in general. And what I mean by in general is, this guy has deep ties to pro-Russian forces in Ukraine and to the Russian oligarchs. Now, if the Russian oligarchs made deals with Trump, either connected or not connected to Manafort, could Manafort know it? So, and Manafort's an expert in money laundering. That's why he's in this world of trouble. Some of us suspect that Trump did money laundering with the Russians. So could Manafort know that? Now, again, we're not sure now because we don't have the direct evidence of what Manafort knows, but the prosecutors are about to. So, tick, 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 tick. So either Trump is in a lot of trouble or it's game over.
Wow.
And just to circle it back around, I guess I technically have to say this, in response to all of this, Sarah Huckabee Sanders says this has absolutely nothing to do with the president or his victorious 2016 presidential campaign. It is totally unrelated. Thank you, Sarah, for not mentioning how many electoral college votes he got. And then just one little interesting thing, just because Jared pointed this out to me, and it is a little bit weird. Rudy Giuliani put out a statement. Once again, an investigation has concluded with a plea having nothing to do with President Trump or the Trump campaign. The reason the president did nothing wrong. But it's interesting, that was not the first draft of that statement. That's the second draft. In the first draft, he said the president hasn't done anything wrong and Paul Manafort will tell the truth. But then they took that back, took out Paul Manafort telling the truth and released this new one. So have fun over the weekend watching to see if he pardons Paul Manafort. But if he doesn't, he might drop a piano on Paul Manafort, at least in terms of hashtag suck it.
They're so clunky and reckless, like that kind of like to release a draft and then to somehow edit it and re-release it. I mean, it's just everything this administration does, even on policy, their stuff is clunky. I mean, from the very first weekend, they were screwing up everything to do with even sound policy, what they consider was sound policy. And Manafort is, they're taking a bunch of his residents away, aren't they? He's losing a bunch of these very expensive homes and residences he has. And so when Trump refers to the cost of the prosecutor, the special counsel, actually, not prosecutor, but special counsel Mueller, these acquisitions by the federal government, just taking the Manafort properties, pays for that entire investigation. So Manafort is, it's only the beginning of this Manafort thing. And what Cenk points to, I think, he could just be the piñata, of criminal acts that this Trump organization is part of.
That's going to flow out when Mueller hits it. So last couple of things here. You guys are absolutely right about the Giuliani statement. Giuliani, he says, now Manafort's going to tell the truth and that will show you that Trump didn't do it. He goes and talks to Trump, he's like, yeah, take that back. Think about that. Think about that, right? Okay.
Take the truth part out.
Let's take that part out, okay? And then finally, to just give you a sense of why I said the thing earlier about game over and what the range of options were. Earlier, the range of options are, and I said this on air because I wasn't sure at all, that Manafort might have done illegal things having nothing to do with Trump. So if they had nothing to do with Trump, he'd have no evidence on Trump. That option is almost eliminated because prosecutors accepted the deal. They would not accept a deal if Manafort's got nothing on no one else. So that, that's hanging on by a reed. 1%, 5% chance that Manafort comes in and goes, okay. I mean, it was just me and I'm super bad guy. You didn't know how bad I was. Now I'll tell you how bad I am, but not connect to anyone. They're like, wow, that's so bad. Okay, fine, I'll give you a plea deal. But that is very unlikely. Again, even Dershowitz says very unlikely. So that option is almost eliminated. That only leaves you two options. One is he at least knows about Trump Tower, in which case Trump's in a lot of trouble if that Trump knew about it and the deal was go ahead and release the Hillary Clinton emails in exchange for God knows what. And that's an important, very, very important part. By the way, receiving valuable information that is of value is against campaign finance laws from a foreign government. It's illegal and a huge problem for Trump. Maybe he survives that, as Jules said, in a political fight in an impeachment issue. But if they promise something in return, whether it's technically treason or not, the politics of that is, hey, I will give you something that the Russian government wants at the cost of the United States government and citizens. You don't win that political battle. So if Manafort has that information on what the Russians wanted back, oh boy, that's good night, Irene, too. And then there's the money laundering, and that's a bigger if. If he knows stuff about Trump's money laundering, that's absolute game over. So that's your range, and it ain't a good range for Donald Trump. So one more time. Tick, 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 tick.
Well, last point on Manafort is he seems almost inevitably to have sold access in some way. I mean, that's been his history, right? He's an influence peddler. And so when you see this guy, Paul Manafort, you know he's worked with the Ukrainians, the Russians, and the Americans in different ways as a political consultant, as a lobbyist after being a political consultant. So it seems almost clear that on some level he's selling access to get out of his own financial jam. So I think that whole idea of pay to play is going to be a big part of the future. In the next couple of months, I think we're going to find out a lot.
Yeah. All right, sounds good. All right, so we got to take our first break here. By the way, if you like this analysis, tyt.com/join, support it, support independent media, and get all our shows. So when we come back, we've got more of that analysis for you guys. So it's on the issue of Medicaid and what the Republicans are doing to it and doing to their own voters. But there's a twist that no one else is talking about. It's the role of big business in that and how they're doubly screwing you over. So it's really interesting. Definitely won't get it anywhere else. We'll do that when we return. We hope you're enjoying this free clip from the Young Turks. If you want to get the whole show and more exclusive content while supporting independent media, become a member at tyt.com/join today. In the meantime, enjoy this free segment. All right, back on the Young Turks. Tick, 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 tick. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. All right. So let's do a couple of comments and then the story, of course. Route 273 writes in the members' comments. Good afternoon, Rebel Alliance. Just that, but I like the sound of it.
Yeah.
Jane Locke writes in, have been a member since 2006. Wow, Jane, you're one of the first. We started, I think, the membership at the end of 2005.
Wow.
There's an argument to be made that we invented the freemium model. So anyway, that's an industry thing. But Jane, since 2006, you're the best.
Wow.
And look at the second half of the sentence. And this is the best website design TYT's ever had. Awesome job, Turks. So you know what? What am I going to do? I guess I'll take the credit. No, seriously.
What does HTML stand for?
Hot.
Hello there.
Hot tamale.
I know. I was thinking of tamales. All right, no, seriously, guys. Great credit to our product and engineering team. They did a wonderful, wonderful job on it. So thank you. And then back to Twitter, AM Smith 41582 says too many letters, too many numbers, by the way, in your handle. Are they going to let Manafort keep the ostrich jacket? Okay, that's
that
funny.
might be what made him flip.
Right.
He said, did you say that?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
So guys, if anyone gets a picture of Manafort walking around with an ostrich jacket inside his prison cell, that means we got him.
That's all it took.
Yeah. So now I got.
That'll be photoshopped a million times, by the way. You know that. Yeah.
So we were doing the membership drive. As you guys know, we started after Labor Day, and we started at 27,661. And then yesterday we passed 31,000, which was amazing. Thank you guys. I wanted to see where it is in a second. Hold, okay. But we're reading some of your comments about the membership drive. And it's great because first of all, it's complimentary and thank you guys, we really appreciate it. But it gives us a deeper connection to you guys to hear your stories. And then a lot of times when we're doing the show, we visualize talking to you guys. So it's pretty neat and we wanna be as connected to you guys as possible. So Faiza wrote in, hashtag TYT Live, first thing in the morning, check the Young Turks hoping for as much progressive wins as possible. I live in France, and as an activist, I know that politics and policies impact the world. Member since November of 2016, hashtag TYT family, hashtag walk the walk. You keep me sane too, much love. Well, much love right back at you, Faiza. Thank you. Seth Gilbert wrote in, Cenk, proud to sign up for a TYT membership. The network has done amazing things for progressive politics. As someone raised conservative, I changed my views over time. It's great to find a home for my progressive ideology through you guys. Hashtag fight the good fight. Absolutely.
And it's great to find a conservative thinker who can flip. I mean, if you'll pardon the expression, flip today.
Should be illegal.
It should be illegal. I'm thinking of making it illegal. By the way, Seth, I'm right there with you. I also flipped, as you guys know. I used to be conservative. M. Bison wrote in, finally put my probably meant my money. Finally put my money where my mouth is. I'm not an official member of the Home of No, that's also wrong. I'm now an official member of the Home of Progressives and the TYT Army. I'm finally a member. Let's keep the membership drive rolling. Thank you, Cenk, Anna, and JR for all you do. Thank you. We appreciate it. And the last one, Jackie Kalari wrote in, I can't believe I didn't know about you sooner. I recently bought a TYT membership and t-shirt. I'm now addicted, miss you on the weekends, have been catching myself saying preposterous. Of course, and doing my shimmy in my new shirt. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Jackie. So a little shimmy right back at you, a little shimmy action. Let's see where we are with the thermometer today. 31,115, okay. Can I see 31,200? 200. All right, tyt.com/join to become a member. Thank you guys, there it is. Home of Progressives. And when you join, that means you built that, and when we have progressive victories, you are part of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
By the way, I love the app. I love the TYT app.
I'm telling you,
it's seamless and great, and you should be proud of that also. So,
yeah, our product and engineering team has been fantastic. So thank you guys.
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
I love seeing that number go up. I mean, it was already big, but I love seeing it go up because we know, and we've been seeing it, especially in the primaries last night, how big the challenge we face is, how much we're going up against, both on the right wing, but also amongst the Democratic Party as well, and the media and the donors and everything. And you get to decide how big of an army do you want on your behalf, and you get to be a part of it, and it's very easy. And you get a lot of content as well.
That's right, and you know what? Including John's show, Damage Report. Let's check out that podcast. All of our shows, over a dozen shows. Okay, one super last thing. You remember yesterday we covered the crazy story of Donald Trump thinking that architects and engineers are weak, like construction guys are strong, engineers are weak. Okay, well you couldn't be more wrong. Our engineers are super strong. They're too strong. So you want to mess with our engineers, Donald Trump? Okay, they will design an app to come get you, and the app will mainly make this sound. Tick, 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 tick.
Now we got to release an app with just a button and you press it, tick, 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 tick. Okay, how about some news?
Yes.
Not good news though.
No.
This month, thousands of people in Arkansas will be the first to be thrown off of Medicaid because of new work requirements. Arkansas will remove more than 4,000 people from the Medicaid rolls, with some estimates saying that number could climb to 50,000 when the requirements are fully implemented inside of 1 year from now. We've got some stats on how this came about. Of those who lost coverage this month, about 95% didn't file the necessary documents with the state. That led to their removal from Medicaid, though some may have been working the required 80 hours a month. So if you didn't get in the documents, it doesn't matter if you were actually abiding by the requirements, you are off, and good luck getting back on. And we've got an associate director of the Kaiser Family Foundation's program for Medicaid talking about how this could have come about. It seems that the state is doing some outreach, but a lot of individuals still don't know about the new requirements and are not setting up their accounts. So even if you need the Medicaid, and even if you're doing the work, and even if you would fill out the paperwork, does the government have much of an incentive really to let you know about that if the driving ideology of Arkansas's government is to attempt to destroy Medicaid, certainly inside of their borders, and hopefully be a part of that nationwide? Perhaps not. So maybe if you had responsible government actually trying to get the word out that people have to put in this paperwork to continue to qualify, maybe more of these people would still have access to their Medicaid.
No, if there's a hiccup at all in this entire process, they're going to default to getting you off of Medicaid. That's what the idea is. They're trying to remove names from the rolls, and so unless all your I's are dotted and T's are crossed, they're gonna lose you in this process. They want to shake out as many people as they can.
Yeah, and unfortunately, this is part of a trend that is already going to expand soon and possibly more in the future. Indiana and New Hampshire are slated to implement their Medicaid work requirements next year. And beneficiaries in Indiana will have to work at least 8 months each year, and an 80-hour-a-month requirement will be gradually phased in over an 18-month period. Hopefully the thing that you need this Medicaid for is not something that stops you from working for too long, because you might find yourself with neither the job nor that. New Hampshire is going to require 100 hours a month beginning in January. Enrollees who don't meet the threshold for 1 month will have their coverage suspended.
Okay, so there's two layers to this story. First, they did the giant tax cuts for the rich, so they need to get the money from somewhere. So they're going to get it from you, and so they're going to take it from in this case, the poor, the middle class, etc. So they're going to cut your Medicaid. They're like, oh well, we don't have any money. Yeah, I know, because you gave $2 trillion to the rich in tax cuts. So second of all, it's their ideology that people who require government assistance at any point in their lives are bums. And so, oh yeah, you prove you're not a bum and show us that you work, because they only respect rich people. Donald Trump said it at a rally. He's like, I don't like poor people in my government or in my cabinet. I only want rich people because I need smart people. They can't stand you, and then when you vote for them, they think you're the world's biggest sucker. And where does it hit first? Arkansas. Voted for Trump overwhelmingly, and he's hitting you first. Okay, now the second layer I would argue is even more interesting. So the Chamber of Commerce is not for reducing Medicaid. Now that's interesting. Chamber of Commerce represents big business. They wanted the giant tax cuts. So why don't they want to get it out of the entitlements like some of the other Republicans? Because they don't want to pay for health insurance, they don't want to pay for benefits, etc. So what do? They pay you really low wages, and then they say, go get the rest from the government. So they don't want the government cutting off Medicaid because it takes their costs down. But they also want to make sure that you have to go work for them at low wages. Yeah. So they say, put in a work requirement. So they must work for us, and we unload our costs onto the American taxpayer. Now, I'm not theorizing that. It's a story that we covered a little while earlier. When I saw that the Chamber of Commerce's position was, no, support Medicaid, but make sure people have to work for it, I was like, oh, that's the game that's being played. Because remember, at the end of the day, the only thing that matters for these corrupt politicians is their donors. And the Chamber of Commerce represents the biggest donors in America. And what do they want? They want low wages that they pay out and unload all the costs onto you. So this is exactly how they do it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think this is a bigger part of like the overall problem that we have with Republicans in healthcare, where on a base level, Republicans are saying, if you want healthcare, go get it. It's the free market. You should, if you want it, get a job that pays it. If you want it through Medicaid, work 80 hours, 100 hours a week. But at the same time, they're saying insurance companies should be able to make all the profits they want. It's the free market. And those profits should come directly from people who need that money the most, who need that help the most. So when you look at it from both sides, all they're doing is continually and repeatedly targeting people who are disenfranchised, people who are sick. And that's who they're stealing this money from, like you said, to give it to the richest people in America who don't have enough, apparently.
Yeah.
I just can't help but think it is crashingly ironic that it's happening in these red states in such a big way, of course. And you're going to create a population already struggling that's outright destitute at the end of all of this, because the costs of healthcare are so crippling that if you skip ahead in this film to the end, it's really grim. I mean, they're really playing with people's lives in such an ugly way.
So one last quick thing about that. Later in today's show, we have another story about how a lot of the people in the middle of the country got killed by the housing crash more than the coast. The coast recovered and are now doing well, but the middle of the country got killed by it. At some point, this has got to catch up with the Republican Party. I know that people have voted against their own interests for decades now, but when your prices are for your house is underwater and you're paying more for your mortgage than your house is worth, and you've got sky high insurance rates, and you thought it was going to get better under Obama, you thought your housing situation was going to get better, you thought your wages were going to get better, and they also went down when you account for inflation, and none of this stuff got fixed. Well, at a bare minimum in 2018, you're not going to be excited to go vote for them, and by 2020 you might realize you've been had. You've been took. They took everything from you and they never gave you anything. It was all a big trick, and the tax cuts went to the rich. They didn't go to you, and your life didn't improve. You thought maybe your problems were because of Obama. Well, come to find out, no, it's the powerful that have been robbing you the whole time.
Yeah, and it's true that the rhetoric of the middle class and helping the downtrodden, the rhetoric that we heard so much of, that I think they rallied around. that's not going to be able to cut through the next time. So what Cenk's saying is so true. By 2020, I don't know when it's going to happen, but they just won't be able to rally around rhetoric anymore. Their situation is going to become way too dire.
In fact, it has already begun. That is why they are withdrawing their ads about the tax cuts, because they're not only not working, they're counterproductive. People are like, I don't see it in my check. I just don't see it. I know that there was $2 trillion worth of tax cuts, but if it's not in my check, whose check is it in? Exactly. So that bill is already coming due right now. It's only going to get worse and worse for the Republicans. So I conclude with tick, 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 tick. All right.
Well, and thankfully, right now, I mean, we're coming off of a couple of years of Bernie Sanders being very out front with addressing these sorts of issues with his rhetoric, with his plans. But now you're seeing it spring up all over the place. Candidates, congressional candidates, gubernatorial candidates. We're seeing it all over the place in slightly different flavors, and people are liking it more and more. And I think that the right wing, some of their attempts to counter people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez have been fumbling and awkward because they are trying to defend the indefensible, and they don't know how to fight back against people who are actually speaking to real economic anxiety with a plan to actually fix it.
No, my favorite segment of all time was when Fox News had that woman who attended her rally come and go, I'm afraid. I'm afraid because it sounds like they're trying to help our families. Yeah. But perhaps you're afraid of the wrong thing.
Yes.
But here's what's going to happen in 2018 that's going to make a difference. Okay, blue wave, vote, go do it. ShopTYT.com. All right, we got to take a quick break here. When we come back, we're going to switch. We're going to play a little bit of musical chairs, but a huge story about Kavanaugh. Did they get him, and was it the right thing to do? Ooh, so very controversial. In fact, I'm a little afraid to talk about it, but we're going to do it because we're the Young Turks when we return.